Hey guys, Andrew Brown here with IA Baseball. I got something here for you. As we continue along talking about great plays that have been made in high school, great performances across the week, games, months in this high school scene, the next step that you think about for a lot of kids is what's next for me in my playing career? What's the next step? And recently I had a conversation with an individual whose son just went through the recruiting process yet again. The recruiting process in general is just stressful. You talked about how hair pulling it was, how nauseating and long the process was, because there's so many factors that go into one of the biggest decisions of your lives. From where do you go to play college ball, or geographically that is. What's the academic standout of that school? Do they have the degree that you want to pursue as well as the high caliber baseball that you want to play? What's undergraduate enrollment like? What's the price range? What are SAT, ACT scores like across conferences, schools across the country? So many things that could take you days, weeks, if not months to compile, and even then you wouldn't get it right. There's so much data out there, but there has been a group that I'm very excited about called Eagle Claw Analytics. These guys compile data from every school in the country, and I mean it, every school in the country. And that includes academic data, baseball, softball data, that puts you in the driver's seat. Now you can filter based off where you want to go, what the academic level is like there, what the division of baseball is like, what fits you best, and you can see how you stack up to guys already in there and what the average look is for guys coming in to the program right out of high school. It truly is a one-stop shop. And the expertise that Sam and Mike have and they bring to the table gives you the perfect layout of all your interests all in one. So all you need to do, head out to a few schools and you can get your perfect placement right away. No transfer portal needed. It truly is a great experience, guys. It will be quick, simple, effective. In today's day and age where there's so much out there on social media, so many guys out there that coaches are having to look through, stand out. Find out what coaches want before they even talk to you. Find out what you can expect from programs that you want to attend to. How do you stack up? How can you reach that? Or can you go to the next level? Guys, it really is that amazing, and these guys make it that simple. Parents, make sure to tune in as well. This is simplicity at its finest here, guys. Make sure to check them out and join this conversation. Hit them up at Eagle Claw Analytics online and catch up on all that they have. Join the conversation now, right here on the IA Baseball Network.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for the intro. Really excited to be here. And yeah, I mean, I think everybody's well aware of how complicated recruiting has gotten. We're sitting here in mid June. I think the latest number out of the transfer portal was 5,500 players between D1 and D3 in that portal right now looking for a home. And that doesn't even include junior college, right? So obviously, we're dealing with a ton of different elements here, especially for high school players when it comes to getting to that next level. Not only getting there, but finding an impactful opportunity both on and off the field. So we got started in 2020 during the COVID pandemic when everything was all shut down, and we were helping some of our own players navigate the process, which again, of course, is always complicated, but especially during that time, everything was going on. And what we were seeing was all these players were going to showcase events and tournaments and facilities and everything, and getting a bunch of numbers on how hard they were throwing, how hard they're hitting the ball, 60-yard dash, pop time, everything.
Yep.
All of that data, which has really dominated youth baseball now, was starting to come to the forefront. And not a lot of people really knew what it meant. Not a lot of people could really put it in context. You'd have a sophomore go to a tournament and have an 84-mile-an-hour exit velo. Okay, great. What does that mean? Right. So one of the first things that we did was actually start collecting as much of that metrics data as we could and categorizing it according to where guys were committing to play in college, just to give you some loose context to compare to. Um, the same way that you could take your high school GPA or test scores and compare it to a college to figure out how you stack up, for admissions, we wanted to create that for how your exit velocity stacks up at the D2 level, at the D1 level, at the Power 4 level, just to give guys kind of that starting point for where to look in the recruiting process. And of course, back in 2020, college recruiting looked a heck of a lot different than it does now, right? Since then, we've had the transfer portal, we've had NIL, we've had eligibility extensions, you name it. I'm sure there's probably more to come. I know there was a legislation that passed just the other day, right? So we're really in the middle of it. And in that last, 5-year time period, we've just been trying to keep up with all of it by collecting and presenting more and more data on everything to do with the recruiting process, both on and off the field. So we have sort of evolved with that to now we track every single player at every single level of college baseball, game performance, recruiting trends, transfer history, where they're from, biometric data. We do it to apply data to a complicated problem to help families get that starting point, just to try to simplify as much as we can a complicated process, be more targeted, be more efficient. You mentioned it in the open. It's not only about finding the right schools now because we have so many players after such a limited number of spots. Efficiency, speed, being targeted, those are all really important factors that go into it. And our MO, I'm sort of the data nerd behind it. I'm the one that is, collecting and analyzing all this data and presenting it. And then we combine it with Sam, who's an Iowa guy, player, coach, has been through it himself to lend that firsthand experience, advice, everything that he can give to a family. And together, we're just trying to give, a comprehensive solution to families that are trying to get this thing going.
Sorry, took my breath away there, guys. And so, how would you, how would you kind of describe if someone comes to you right off the bat? How would you first describe Eagle Claw to them as to, when, again, we'll get to more of the transfer portal here stuff in just a bit here, but how do you, when someone comes first onto or gets a hold of you or gets in touch, finds out Eagle Claw, how do you describe what you are as an organization and again, what you end up helping them with?
So the joke that we always tell, and parents that are watching will probably appreciate this, for most teenage kids that we talk to going through the recruiting process, if you ask them what they're looking for in a college or where they want to go, usually the answer we get back is, I don't know, I don't care, I'll go anywhere. So really, to boil it down, what we really describe ourselves as, the thing that we can provide is actually challenging you on what the right fit looks like given your situation, what you're looking for, what your background is, both on and off the field. So Sam and I sit down with you. We screen share our software, which has every piece of data on the college side of things, and then every piece of data that we now have tracking game performance on the field. And we talk about fit. We put real school examples in front of you, ask you what you like and don't like about each school, and kind of use that to generate some search criteria that we can use, in your college recruiting process to be more targeted. So rather than simply asking that broad question of, hey, where do you want to go? We really try to have a conversation around that, be a little bit more creative in how we get to that final answer. And then the goal at the end of the call is that we actually have 25, 30 colleges that we're actually pulling out as a starting point for you,
Okay.
Based on the conversation that we have. And at that point, Sam really comes in there and talks about, okay, great. So now we have an idea of where we're going. How are we going to get there? How are you going to turn into a college-ready guy that these coaches are going to want on their team? What does that mean specifically from an Iowa standpoint, right? With the way that we play baseball here in Iowa. So it's a directional thing. I think what we found is that it is a very complicated process. There's like 1,600 colleges out there. Simply helping a family take that first step, get that right direction, goes a long way to get the ball rolling.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, again we have a lot of fun talking about this stuff. Mike, Sam here from Eagle Claw Analytics, as again a hugely, vastly complicated process, and they help it make it simple for you guys. But I did hear again, Sam. I'll get to you here in just a bit. But Mike, I did want to ask. I've looked just perusing and on we got the chance to talk with you, look over. You guys seem to have everything when it comes to having parents feel comfortable about what others are looking at, whether it's average rates of different pitches. You've got the education component of it. What education is looking like there? You got, I believe, SAT or ACT scores. I mean, you've compiled a lot. Ultimately, what I'm getting at is, has there been something in the development of this, bringing this all together? Has there been certain things that you have found out that, hey, families are looking for more that you may not have known initially? Because it just seems like you have so much there that not in an overwhelming standpoint but people go that I looked at it and went, oh man, I didn't. That's something that I'd like to know. What are the average looks that all the other players are seeing from this school or that school? And I kind of am curious about kind of how that process came to be or how it came by. But initially the question being, what, if any, stats or information or stuff that kind of stood out to you in the process of making this?
Yeah, I think a lot of players, parents, especially if they're going through this for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're usually a little bit shocked by just how many colleges are out there with baseball programs,
Yeah.
and that you can actually be pretty specific about what you're looking for. And what I mean by that is, say you want to be an engineer, right? You
Yep.
can have that criteria, making sure they have an engineering program at the school, student to faculty ratio, graduation rate, um, all these off-field factors that there's a large diversity of colleges out there all around the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you get beyond the big schools that everybody's heard of, you
Yep.
really are a new territory there, exploring different things. Sometimes it's a geographic location that pops out for people, like schools on the beach or something like that. Beautiful campus, and people didn't even know it existed, right? Or the facilities are beautiful. A D2 school, I know where Sam played. They have beautiful facilities over there. So it's different for different families what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just the clarity of taking some of that control back, right? And I think where so many families enter into the recruiting process is that really I just have to wait for a coach to find me, reach out to me. Of course, that can happen. It hopefully will happen for you. But there's also a degree of control that you can take back,
Yep.
actually go on the offensive a little bit and target schools that fit you. And I think you'd be surprised a lot of times those coaches are looking for exactly you as a player, to reach out to them, because sometimes the recruiting resources and everything that they have are a little limited. And just going on the offensive, identifying what you want, whatever that may be, and going to make a connection to see if there's an opportunity out there for you.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, Sam and again, Mike from Eagle Claw talking about a huge system that helps make it easy in the transition. Again, it seems as though there's everything from there. Again, from what you want your major to be and how baseball fits into that. I thought it was really, really cool. But Sam, I'll start with you on this one here. Today, in today's world, vastly different recruiting wise from 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's completely different. NIL, all that has kind of changed the game, and I won't speak on to NIL very much here, but the fact that the transfer portal is there and so much more widely prevalent right now, it seems as though it has added so much more stress. Even though athletes can get out there and try different opportunities, man, it seems like there's so much stress, and it seems as though half the time, and I may be wrong at this, guys, but it seems as though they go, man, I didn't get what I wanted, or I didn't get what I thought I was going to get here. And it seems as though not as much information was there on the onset of getting to that school. And here you have here you have Eagle Claw as a way to kind of bridge that gap, fill in all the question marks that there is. But again, from a guy who has played, it seems like a completely different world now. And I want to get your take on just how you feel the changes have gone in transfer portal, what the game has been like now. Excuse me, and how important Eagle Claw can kind of fill in the gaps that now I think has created a bigger bridge because of that extended transfer portal. Again, how much? Again, take us through your thoughts on the transfer portal, what that has been like, and kind of how Eagle Claw can help bridge that gap now.
Yeah, so we're kind of seeing it right now on the forefront. JUCO, especially, they can
Yeah,
get kind of, lost between it. A lot
wild.
of schools are waiting for, the transfer portal to hit on, I think it was June 2nd is when it opened. So we saw when guys were trying to, find a school prior to that, most coaches were saying we're going to wait for when the transfer portal because they got guys leaving and they want to know what guys are going to be in it. So that's just also delaying the process. And
Mhm.
then, we're even kind of still in it now. For some coaches are waiting for the dust to settle a little bit and see what schools and what guys are still available. Um, so it's kind of just, Mike talked about it not too long ago about being efficient, right? Because there's about, 10 guys that could fill one spot, but it's just whoever gets there first. So it may not be that you're not good enough to go there. It means you didn't get there first. And I think something that we do is we can help analyze exactly where you could go and have a targeted approach and get in contact with that school as soon as possible, and then kind of go from there.
Right. And gosh, as we look at what's going on and happening right now, there is just every it seems that every quarter there's just so much movement. Every single time that a season ends, there's always so much movement. Yet again, and you see that with every level now. Again, it just seems to make it so much more difficult. But now, Sam, I also wanted to talk on Iowa baseball here just a little bit. And I think that in the end, again, Iowa, call us the unicorn, however you want to do it. We're the only ones with summer high school baseball. Uh, and one of the things that I have noticed from guys who either late to the party, kind of getting into it a little bit, or just haven't quite found their path yet. They get in there, go, man, I just don't know. There's Twitter, there's social media out there, but man, it seems like that is almost oddly, in a way, muddied up the waters even more because now it seems like everybody has that route, and it's just a bunch of highlight reels. And so, in the end, this is something I feel helps Iowa out just as much, going through this process, maybe even a little more. You're an Iowa guy, you know about it, you know what's going on with this scene right now. How important is it for guys to make sure, even when they get done with the season, they got to get into summer ball, stuff like that. But this seems like a good way to, again, help with mom and dad as well, because mom and dad are sitting here going, man, what do we do here? We don't know. He doesn't know where we want to go. Things are filling up. Coaches obviously have pressure on them to get their rosters set and get going. And again, from an Iowa standpoint, yes, a lot of the Iowa schools know this and are on the side with that. But I I do know that what this service provides feels like, hey, it just kind of sit back and you don't have to rush a little bit. I feel like so many Iowa guys feel a little bit rushed when they get through and they get into their sophomore and junior seasons especially. But kind of take through it. How does this help those Iowa guys move forward in a time where, right now, sometimes Iowa gets behind the ball in that recruiting landscape?
Yeah, so like I mean I love that we play high school baseball in the summer.
Yeah,
I think it's awesome, especially because the springs are very cold. But
very.
uh, but I think it can put us at a disadvantage a little bit because you got a lot of teams that have already played their high school seasons,
Hmm.
and so schools have already looked at those situations. Like, I mean, just up in Minnesota, they just finished up their state tournament, so they're already seeing, what has a kid done in their high school season. But I think, for instance, here, how unique we are. We're just late, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I think, if you're going to show out and you're going to play and you're going to play really well, I think, you'll get seen. But then our job is to make sure you get seen by the right schools, not just by one school. I've been talking to a couple kids and they're saying, "Oh, well, I only have, one D3 offer." And I'm like, "Well, you're not a D3 kid." No offense
Yeah.
to D3, but there's just some guys that aren't getting the looks they deserve. And I think that's where we step in to help them, get seen more. And then kind of speaking onto the Twitter thing, I think it talks more about how we have to be efficient in what we do, because everyone does have Twitter, but those coaches have to go through those reels all the time
Mm-hmm.
of just who's this guy, who's this guy, who's this guy. I mean, they can look at 10 guys in 5 minutes, but how are we going to stand out? How are we going to get them first, and kind of have a targeted approach?
Yeah, I mean, certainly one of the things that I, again, really enjoy about what I've seen, again, from Eagle Claw is just, again, the simplicity of it. And again, I'll bring everybody back into the fold here. But again, guys, I think it's what's really interesting for me to look at is that there's a lot of times where we're quick to do something. We wait, coaches wait a long time, just that kind of anxious period. But one thing we don't think about here, and I like, Sam, how you were bringing that up there, that yeah, in the end, mom and dad still get they're as frustrated too, having to make those decisions. So one of the things that Mike, I really like is you had talked about it earlier, sitting down with them, because I think it's so easy. So many places out there, I see, here's our website, go check it out. You manage it from there. How do you navigate that? And a bit we'll go through what that looks like here, but I think mom and dad are also going to feel really, really happy about going through this process with you guys, because again, as with the services that you guys provide, it just makes it so much easier. So, I mean, how much, when you guys were developing this, how much did mom and dad factor into this whole equation? I know the player has to make the decision in the end, but you guys seemingly, the conversation has revolved around the family, not just the player. And I think that's something that I haven't heard very much when it comes to the recruiting process from guys. How much of a factor was that in for you to make sure that mom, dad, and just the whole family can be a part of this process?
Mom has to be happy. That's the bottom line, no matter
There
what.
you go. Mom has to be
No,
happy. I
I
love
think,
that.
yeah, no, I think it's huge, right? I think the big thing, the value of sitting down and talking about it is that you actually get to know the family, the kid, what makes them unique. There's no cookie cutter approach to this. Every kid brings a different background. Every kid is looking for different things in college. And then of course, college is expensive. The financial side of it, talking about what that looks like, scholarships, financial aid, different things. You know, the best way to describe this call is really it's meant to be a back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it's not Sam and I getting on here and lecturing the parents and player. It's really a back and forth, throwing different schools out there, hearing what they think about them initially, kind of challenging that thought process a little bit. One of the big things, just to throw an example out there that we get, um, is climate, right? A lot of guys, baseball's a warm weather sport.
Yep.
So one common thing that we hear is that they want to play in a warm weather climate. Hey, it's great, okay, we can work on that, but there's also a lot of good schools that aren't in the warmest climate too, right? And kind of challenging that and putting some of those, schools in front of them, and just talking through it, right? It's more than just a filter tool. What we always say is, you go onto our software, if you know exactly what you want to filter on, you can get to your college list in like 10 seconds, right? But the hard thing is figuring out what the filters are, and having that conversation with everybody there in one place, and just kind of trying to get down into the details, figure out what provides that kid what they're looking for, mom and dad included, uh, it's a really productive hour. I'll say that. When we come out of these calls, it's a really, um, it's a pretty fulfilling thing on our end to see, a player and family that maybe came in at the beginning of the call at step one, really not sure where to go, and leaving with a pretty good direction, or at a bare minimum, having a lot to think about, right? About how to approach this big, messy recruiting situation in front of them.
So, as we again continue the conversation here, again, ladies and gentlemen, one thing I urge you to do: check out the demo. Go to Eagle Claw Analytics. Go to the website here. Again, eagleclawanalytics.com. They help you through it, but it's just it's so extensive, dynamic, but it makes it so simple. And I want one of the things that I really really liked when I perused it. Again, I had to, guys. This is something that I kind of looked through, and it gets me a little excited here. It has Eagle Claw's 5 tiers of college baseball, which, again, when you add on to the fact that you guys take into what is your major, what do you want to do outside of baseball, what are your interests in location and all that, then you add that into not just, hey, you want to play baseball kind of where you want to, you've narrowed it down, but you guys have a 5 tiers of college baseball. Take me through that, because that seems like it is something that really can help simplify kind of where you stand, where you want to go, what seems right for you. So, Mike, first off, this seems pretty fun and engaging. Take me through the 5 tiers of college baseball here that, again, you'll be able to find when you head onto the website and have this conversation with you guys.
Yeah, so 5 tiers of college baseball. That's really us getting back to our roots and contextualizing on-field metrics, and
Yeah.
just trying to give you an idea of where you can go play in college, giving you some broad context as to what level you might be a good fit at. I think the biggest thing is, with everybody that we work with, the goal is not just to commit, is to actually get on the field and make an impact, right?
Yep.
So, one of the big things that we look at is how your athletic skill set projects to fit among a database of actually several million at this point data points dating back to 2015 of basically anyone that has committed to a
Yeah.
college since 2015. How hard were they throwing? What was their exit velo? What was their pop time? What was their 60-yard dash? Okay. We consolidated that all into a pyramid, 5 tiers of college baseball pyramid.
Yep.
And the reason it's 5 is because obviously we have Division One, Division Two, Division Three, NAIA, JUCO. It's actually a lot more nuanced than that.
Okay.
If you're a Power Four Division One school, if you're Iowa, they're getting top talent. They're getting some of the best guys around the country to come in, as a Power Four program. That is typically going to be higher up than a mid-major Division One, a lower D1, and then when we get into D2s and D3s, there are Division Two programs that can compete and beat Division One programs. There's Division Three that can beat D2, NAIA. There's some powerhouse teams in there that are going to be competitive across the board. So just to look at it as D1 is always better than D2, which is always better than D3, is not always the most accurate thing. So what our 5 tiers pyramid does is start from tier A, which are your Power Fours,
Okay.
all the way down to tier E, which are the smallest schools out there, small Division Threes, small NAIA, and just kind of gives you an idea of where you're at on that pyramid. And then what you can do, what we typically tell guys to do, is pick the closest 2 or 3 tiers to
Yeah.
where you're projecting, and you can plug that straight into our software or bring it to a meeting with us, and we're making sure that the athletic fit is going to be aligned with where you currently project to possibly get recruited, make an impact on the field. Everything that we do is about trying to get you on the field. That's our MO with everything. Not only athletic fit, but making sure you're going to a roster where there's an opportunity for you to compete as soon as you can. That's another NCAA rule change that has come out. Roster reductions are happening at the D1 level. It's all about play now. So it's so important that the athletic fit is good in order for that overall college experience to be good.
And that to me seems like we now have power in the hands of the athletes here, guys, that maybe that wasn't there before, and one thing that again, I took from that here, Mike, is that it seems as the decisions are again more thorough, more thought through, but also you can kind of gauge where you're at now and say, you know what, maybe I can hit a higher level. If some guys maybe not confident, didn't think so before, I mean, the data is right there. And again, whether it's that, whether you end up looking at and heading up to research baseball programs, we'll look through this here, but this is something you'll take them through, finding the average pop time, exit velo. I mean, there is the balls, it seems, in their court, so to speak, not to throw basketball into the mix here, but in the end, it seems like they have that control now. And even, again, reality has to set in sometimes to say, hey, maybe you're not getting the looks at the level you want. Look at something else right now. Look at, D2, D3, JUCO, NIA, and kind of move from there. But again, I think, again, it could be mistaken here, but it just seems, Mike, like we have now the power for these guys to make that decision and the parents to go look and say, hey, you could do more, you could pursue more, or hey, here's what you need to reach to. And it even seems like guys coming out of JUCO, this seems like a good place for them to land as well, not just high school students.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, there's a flip side of it too, where sometimes we get so caught up in the recruiting process and posting highlight videos and everything and trying to build up your brand as a player. And the element that we always try to bring back into it, well, all that's important, is the player development too, right? Are you developing into the player that a certain college at a certain level, wants to recruit, wants to be, on the roster? So to look at the pyramid, or on our website, you pull up any given school, it will tell you what those typical metrics benchmarks are to be a guy who's in the ballpark of potentially being recruited there. There's a player development element to that, right? Let's say you're a sophomore and you're looking at a college that, maybe the average metrics are about 5 miles an hour above where you're currently at. Well, now you have a targeted, goal, basically a benchmark that if I want to go to the school, how am I going to gain 5 miles an hour? Knowing that if I do that, it doesn't guarantee you'll be recruited there, but you are in the realm. You are, you do have the type of skill set that coaching staff is typically looking for. So I think just by defining it a little bit more, we do a lot for the player, because when we got into this, a lot of the kind of information out there around recruiting was really secondhand information. It was, Jimmy went there and he was really good. He hit 10 home runs in high school. Mm-hmm. We're taking that just a little bit of a step farther, where we can say, hey, here's exactly, how fast Jimmy was. Here's his exit velo. Here's his throw-in velo. Mm-hmm. And again, it doesn't guarantee anything, but by adding that kind of additional information in there, you have a more defined path for your own development, a better understanding of what do I have to do as a player, working with my coaches, working with whoever, to get where I want to be. We're removing that gray area.
And that gray area is significantly lessened with what you guys bring to the table here. And Sam, I also want to get to something here as well. There's a lot of big dates that come and go. Again, you mentioned there's so many things that are there that, gosh, I'll be honest, sometimes I miss. And as a player, nerves are racking up. Man, I don't want to miss the transfer portal open. I don't want to miss days when I can go see guys. On top of already that they're having to work with school, their summer, their season, and all of that, a lot of things going on. As a player, Sam, I can only assume that gets that's just and what you have gone through. I know you've gone through the stress. Your family's gone through stress. Both of you know what it's like here. But again, I want to take us through coming up on, I believe it's June 15th, if I'm not mistaken. Here, I'll let you kind of take through this date here. Take me through the significance of that date. And again, when it comes to finding out the information, Eagle Claw can help you get there. You guys on the call going through all this information with them as well. So this, it seems like when you come out of the conversation here, not only do you have a path, but you know the dates. And again, coming up on the 15th is a big one.
Yeah, June 15th is when coaches can start reaching out to the sophomores about to be juniors. They can start getting in first contact with them, and then, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's August 2nd that they can start offering out official visits for those kids. So basically, right now, if you're a sophomore going into your junior year, and you're worried that you haven't got contacted or you're not hearing anything, right? June 15th, it's coming. What is it, the 11th or something? Yeah, so we got 5 days away from it, and then we're rolling. But it also doesn't mean if you didn't get a call on the 15th that no school's looking at you. So it's just kind of the doors opening up to you, and then it's a possibility for you also to reach out to other schools. Coach doesn't have to contact you. You can go out and at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for yourself. So
Yep.
kind of go out there and start messaging coaches that you feel interested in. And if you would hop on a call with us, we'd help you figure out what those schools are through that pyramid, through the filters. June 15th comes, we'll try to get you in contact with those schools.
And
And just to
it's,
piggyback on that, if I
yeah,
can. So I think one thing that always happens when you get a date like that, June 15th, right, where
yep.
it's kind of on the athlete's mind that, okay, coaches are now cleared to reach out to me if they want to. It's a lot of times, you don't hear anything on that day. Right? And we see prospects immediately start to kind of have an internal, freak out or, whatever it may be that, oh, the coach hasn't reached out. I really just want to hammer in on the misconception that college coaches are always going to make first contact with you. That can happen, it will happen, but so much of it is on the player to make that first contact. Uh, the budgets of a lot of schools, they're not huge when it comes to recruiting. They can't always make it out to a game that you're playing in or whatever it may be. And if you put yourself in that coach's shoes, they have all these players that have highlight videos, everything out there in front of them. There's kind of a time aspect that goes into that on their side too, right? So the more you can go on offense, especially if you're the right fit, right, both on and off the field, and put yourself in front of those coaches, that's another thing that it's not all on this June 15th date, right? That's not a make or break thing.
Yep.
It is a substantial date, but we also want to make sure they know that, hey, if you don't hear anything, then we just have a little bit of work to do to put you in front of those coaches and establish those relationships because they can't always get to see you first.
Right. And all that nerves, excitement, all that, again, I hear you, goes into what could be that internal freak out. And I know everyone out there has had it. And again, I like that point of being brought up. But it does seem like this helps you, as you guys have already mentioned, with that kind of bag of tricks already. Because I got to assume here, and again, Sam, Mike, you can add to this here as well. But coaches, with all that they have, you mentioned here, Mike, so much that they have to go through already and sift through and their limitations. But I think it'd be cool as a coach to go, hey, this truly is the guy we're looking for. He hits our metrics. He hits what we have typically gone out for. I mean, it just seems like you're already circumventing the time that it would take for him to find you. And so this really, as a player going through, it seems for me like, again, kind of a home run type of situation where you go past the highlight reels, because I feel like in today's, you mentioned it, so many highlight reels out there, it just seems to bog down. You go, hey, this guy's in front of me. He has reached out. This guy is what we want. He is what we look for. And without even without even having that conversation, you've already found out what coach likes in a sense, and where they're at, what a new coach may be looking for over the last couple of years, what a established coach has already seen. And so, again, that seems to really hit that hard. And again, what I wanted to touch up now is, again, the services that hit that up. You mentioned the prospect planner that you go through, a college prospector, I should say. You go through, you find out about it as well. Again, researching baseball programs. So what I like is that when you guys, if anybody goes out there, there's a demo, and you guys take us through it perfectly well. The demo does a great job. And then when you, on the other hand, add your expertise of what this recruiting landscape goes through, I don't think there's very many questions, if at all, when you get off of this call. I mean, you truly seem to have done your homework and gone through it. But I want to also make sure to expand upon really all the services here that you guys provide here, Mike. And again, we talked about the different filters from the prospector that you can go through, but there's also a way that as a pitcher, as a hitter, again, we know that getting into college, there's a large likelihood that you won't be the multi-tool guy or gal that you were at high school. You're going to now have to find one avenue to go through and excel at that. You guys have a way to kind of analyze and gauge that as well. Can you take us through what that looks like? Again, another tool for you guys to use, for athletes to use, whether they are just a pitcher only, whether they are just a position player.
Yeah. So that's really, when you hop on a call with us, we're pulling up all the data that we have,
Yep.
And having a conversation around it. And a big piece of it, especially now in today's recruiting environment, are pulling up the actual rosters at the schools that may be the right fit, schools that we may be, wanting to pursue, and looking at what the players have done, right? Where's the game production coming from? Are they upperclassmen? Are they lowerclassmen or underclassmen? Where are they from? Are they transfers? Are they JUCO guys? Just doing your homework is the term that you use. I mean, that's perfect. We're doing our homework on a roster before we reach out to A, figure out if it's the right fit, but B, when we do send that email to the coach, you're making it personal, right?
Yeah.
And we go back to, putting yourself in the coach's shoes, right? I know some college coaches that get like 100 DMs a day from players, right? And probably a lot of them can play, right? I mean, it's got nothing to do with talent, but how is that coach going to go through those 100 DMs efficiently? I mean, they want to spend time with their families too, right? How are they going to go out, go about doing this and identifying guys that they think are the right fit for their program as well? So doing your homework and not just sending a cookie cutter email out to every college coach in the country, but rather sending a well-written personal email to that college, how I meet your needs, why I like your school, why I think I'm a fit for you, is a huge, huge way to differentiate yourself. We see it all the time. I mean, I used the engineering example, a little earlier on. We've seen it before where a player puts in the outreach email to a college that they want to be an engineering major, but the school doesn't even have an engineering program, right? So at that point, if I'm reading that as a college coach, maybe this player can play, but I'm reading it and saying, okay, he doesn't even know what academic programs we have. Mm-hmm. He hasn't done any research in our school. And there's a time element for that coach too, where how much am I going to invest in recruiting him if he doesn't even know that we don't have his desired academic program, right? So what usually happens is that email just gets skipped. He goes to the next guy. It doesn't even matter how good, you can play or what your video looks like. So making it personal, with all the data that we have, doing your homework, and then having a targeted approach to reach out and put yourself in front of those coaches is really what this is all about.
Yeah. It really seems that holistic approach, man, you can already have the evidence that coaches are looking for right in there. Use that, find your way in, and go, man, and you can look so much better than everybody, and all while making it, again, like you said, personal. But guys, what I'd like to do now, if possible, is kind of a little simulation here. I know that everybody out there, the one thing that makes this tick is that you guys who have had the experience, you've seen the data, all this collected data, you know how to interpret it and rock it. Let's say I'm a guy that is just getting in there. What could that call look like here? What might we see when we get through and we kind of look through? What are you going to take us through first off?
Yeah, let me go ahead and flip my screen around.
Perfect.
All right. Yeah, so really where we start out when we get on a call with a family is before we look at anything to do with baseball or softball, we really prioritize that off the field fit
Okay.
and the athletic fit, making sure that the schools that we are looking at are going to work for you across the board. And, this is what we were talking about earlier with if you simply ask, most teenage kids where they want to go to college or what they want to do, you sort of get the I don't know answer back or I don't care. So this is really where we do our work with that by plugging in these different filters, pulling up different college options, putting them in front of a player and a family, and just talking through it, right? I mean, it's a conversation. What do you like about this location? What do you not like about it? And, really the deeper we get into that conversation, the more criteria we have, to kind of better search and filter schools going forward. So this is what the software program looks like.
Okay.
We start with every college in the country is categorized by region right here. And basically we come in here and we start putting filters in. So we were talking about the athletic tiers earlier on. Again, just kind of broad context as to where you may fit athletically rather than looking at it from D1, D2, D3. There's a lot more intermix in that with the Power Fives being in a different category than mid-majors, lower D1s, and so forth. So, and this is a big thing that Sam does, being the player and coach that he is, helping you figure out where you may fit athletically. And usually we don't try to pinpoint it because there's a lot of development left for a lot of the guys we work with are still in high school, still developing, everything. So we usually tell them to select maybe, 2 or 3, let's say we just did B, C, D.
Okay.
What this will do is start to shrink your options over here and basically generate your college list with the more and more filters that we plug in. So another one that always comes up is obviously region. So, whatever it may be, boom. Now we're focusing on that. Academic background is a big one. Test scores. Not everybody is doing the standardized test scores anymore. Some people have, something specific to put in here, and others we kind of go with a broader range depending on how rigorous of a academic situation they're looking for. Whatever their off-field preferences are in that regard. For the sake of this, we'll do a wider range here and just show you how that works. Continue to shrink there. And then, of course, you mentioned things like making sure it has a specified major, right? You want to be an engineer? Well, let's make sure that school has engineering. Boom, continue to shrink. Different things that we can plug in. Enrollment, some people, they're okay with a small school, but don't want a really, really small school, right? So, say we did a minimum enrollment of, 1,000, just to factor out those smaller ones, boom, shrinking it a little bit more. So you kind of get the idea of there, how that works. And then, let's say that we have a school of interest here that we can pop open. We have a page built out for every school, which will open up in a different tab and basically just give you a little bit more information about that college that you're looking at. So, one thing that we're very cognizant of here is this is a very data heavy software program, right?
Yep.
So we are actively trying to do things to make it more interactive, make it more interesting than just looking at a spreadsheet, right? So one thing that we put in is a little campus tour, just to give you a little snapshot idea of, what life is like on campus there, a little overview of the school. And then we go down, we get into some of our metrics here. These are the average high school senior year, keyword average metrics for a Central Michigan commit right here. Couple things to touch on. One, this is not a requirement by any means. Okay, so if you're throwing 85, it does not mean you have no shot to go here. We're simply telling you what is typical, right, for Central Michigan. We also don't want to see a PR, right? We sometimes get kids that come in and they throw 85 miles an hour consistently, but that one time, that one day, they hit 91. Well, we're more interested in the 85, right? Because that's what's going to show up in a game setting.
Mm-hmm.
Exit velocity here, we're trying to eliminate all the factors that kind of cause this number to sway one way or the other. So the way we have this measured is hitting off a tee with a wood bat. And that's just to minimize all those extra factors. Obviously, if you have a moving ball coming in from a live pitch, that's going to affect that exit velocity. The launch angle is going to affect the exit velocity. Having the trampoline effect of a metal bat is going to affect the exit velocity. So we've really tried to kind of boil this down to the simplest form that we can. And again, 91 is a consistent, repeatable exit velocity off a tee with a wood bat. 60-yard dash, of course, is important. This is really, middle infield and outfield where this really plays in. If you're a catcher, obviously it's a different situation. Pitcher's different situation. This is something that usually catches people off guard a little bit. I think in today's baseball world, it's so much about throwing velo and exit velo. Sometimes that raw athletic ability, that speed, is something that can be a little bit neglected in training for some guys, right? And I think the value of knowing this number, especially earlier on, and just understanding how it plays a role in your evaluation. If you want to go be an outfielder at Central Michigan, you got to be pretty fast, right? They're looking for guys that can cover a lot of ground. They're looking for guys that might be able to steal some bags, right? All that stuff plays in. So this is a huge thing right here. Scrolling down, we break this down throughout your high school career just to kind of show you what the range looks like for being on track. I think sometimes we get younger guys that think they have all the time in the world to add 15 miles an hour and throw 90. They have time, right? There's plenty of time to develop, but we can also boil it down to show them kind of a low range and a high range for what is on track for a particular school. And again, not a requirement, just meant to be context, giving you an idea of where opportunities are most likely to be for you in the recruiting process, so we can be targeted, efficient with our outreach. Looking at opportunities that are more probable for you to not only get recruited but get on the field and play. So we do that with everything here. And then continuing to scroll down, we kind of get into a sort of an abridged version of some of the data that we have on the roster. We have a breakdown here of obviously freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. So you can see how upperclassmen heavy, underclassmen heavy they are. Here is their recruiting pipelines, where they're typically pulling players from. High school to transfer ratio is one that's obviously very important in the modern day with the portal being so dominant. So you're seeing here that Central Michigan's about 50-50 between the portal and JUCO and high school. Sometimes, it depends on coaching philosophy. Sometimes this is 95% high school. Sometimes it's 95% transfer. So again, if you're looking at a school that is 95% transfer as a high school kid, maybe time is better invested at a different college that's a more probable outcome. It's got nothing to do with you as a player or your ability. It's more just how do I fit into the philosophy, the recruiting strategy of that particular coaching staff. It's one thing to know who's on the team. It's another thing to know who's getting the playing time. So right here we have basically a distribution of where the playing time is going by position and class, just to have, give you an idea of where the production is, during the current season, where they may be looking to replace some of that production, through recruiting. again, we're doing our homework here. The more we can know about the roster, the better. And then down here, we actually have impact players based on their game stats and their production this year. Here are the top guys on this team according to their game stats. And, a whole bunch of information here. This is really why we hop on the call with you, because we're going to talk through all of this. You're not on your own with it. But what we're trying to do is hit every angle here in order to basically just be fully informed on independent information going into outreach with coaches. I'll flip to one more thing here.
Yeah.
We're going to have to let that load in as well.
All right.
Okay. The second thing that we pull up on a call with you are our player trackers. This is where we track every single player on every single team at every single level of college baseball. Again, just to better understand the rosters and where you may fit, have that ability to maybe go make an immediate impact on a team, not just get recruited. So this is our hitting tracker. We have a separate one for pitching. We're looking at all the guys that have gotten at least one at-bat at the Division I level. That's 4,764 guys have gotten one at-bat. We have a variety of things in here that we can look at. Obviously, class, position, height. Home state is where they're from. That's where they played in high school.
Yep.
Game production, power, contact. These are all 0 to 100 ratings that are based on their game stats. There's no subjective element to that. That's just basically a quick cut breakdown of basically their skill set. Are they a power hitter, a contact hitter? How productive have they been? Previous team is if they're a transfer. Basically, how did they get recruited to this school? Where did they come from? We have dynamically updating game stats here, all the raw offensive stats for that player. And then on the right, we have all the raw stats for the college, in this case, Abilene Christian. And the reason we have it all together is because we can actually filter it all at one time in the same place. So I'll just give you a quick look at how that works. We pull up our filter again. And again, a lot of data here. That's why we're here to walk you through it, have that conversation. But we can start by plugging in those same exact filters that we had before when we were talking about, whatever off-field fit looks like for that player that we're advising. And we're going to be looking at only the players that fit that criteria, just to make sure that we're honing in on the right opportunities, for this given player. So say we're looking at, D1 guys or whatever it may be, plugging different stuff in here. We can plug in that same, ACT range if we wanted to. And again, just meant to be efficient and targeted with who we're looking at. And then what we can do is, let's say you're a catcher, right? Let's just look at all the catchers.
Yep.
Schools that fit that criteria. Let's go ahead and factor out the seniors because they're more than likely moving on. So they're not going to play into your recruiting process. But here we are. We have 33 Division I catchers that fit this criteria.
Wow.
And what we can do is we can get a quick idea of who they are and their game production, right? So we can kind of scroll through and just get an idea of where opportunities might be, how guys are playing, just, again, doing our homework on the roster. We use this as an element to pull out different schools that might be worth targeting, depending on your situation. It's all just meant to be independent information. One thing I did want to show you before I flip this screen back, which is a really cool tool, is we can actually track the performance of every player currently playing college baseball from the state of Iowa. So we come in here to state. Plug in Iowa. Hit done. And now we're looking at all the hitters in the state of Iowa at the D1 level. We can sort it top down. Now we're looking at everything, right? D1, D2, D3, JUCO. sorted top down from game production. Here's all the Iowa-born guys, where they're playing. These guys are having unbelievable seasons, and it
Yeah.
can be really interesting to see where players that used to be in your shoes, right, no matter what high school you're currently at in Iowa,
Hmm.
where they went to, where they're being successful. We can draw some inferences from this, based on where connections may be. Those guys got to where they are for a reason. There are things that go into that, connections at the college level, different pipelines that exist, and kind of by looking at where those guys are and where they're playing well, can help us advise a current Iowa high school player currently going through it. We can kind of draw inferences from that and relay that to them and apply it to their process. So a lot of cool stuff that we can do here. And I'll go ahead and flip the screen back around.
I loved in particular here, as again we wind this down. Love the fact that you can go based off guys that you've seen before, been like you said, in their shoes. I love that part where again adds that relatability piece. Sam, I can only imagine from your standpoint as you try and help them through. Here's what we're seeing. Here's what coaches looking for. What you should look as a player. I mean, again, you can kind of look at these guys and go, "Hey, I stack up. I compare." In the end, I find myself right in those shoes. It kind of adds a little inspiration to the fact. I mean, you can there's every angle is kind of as thought of here with this.
Yeah, for sure. But the big thing that I love about it is it's not just me throwing like a dart at a map and then kind of picking,
Yep.
what schools is what, but we have a targeted approach from the advisor standpoint, and we get off a meeting with them. I know who I'm contacting tomorrow with this for this kid,
Yep.
so it's great. We can hit the ground running. Like we keep going back to being fast and efficient and trying to be the first ones there.
Yeah. I mean, truly, it seems like you guys got it all set here. And again, thanks guys for taking us through that. Again, that seems there's a whole lot there, and what seems overwhelming, you guys know to a T. So again, you can take them through that process. What you're looking for, you can easily go through and help them navigate what is again the most challenging landscape that we have right now in recruiting. So, hey guys, appreciate. I know we've taken some time up here, but we got the chance to really dive into what Eagle Claw is and how it can help anybody out there, whether you're a softball, baseball guy, gal. It really find a way to get these guys in the right spot, in the right mindset. So, Mike, last thing here. What do they got to do? What's the process? How do they get in contact with you? How do they get that critical call with you guys that they can go ahead and take this next step?
Yeah, so if you guys are interested, just go to eagleclawanalytics.com. Right there on the homepage, we have a How It Works button. We'll walk you through exactly how our system works, demo the software. Really, step one is scheduling a call with us. It's called a prospect placement report.
Okay.
We'll pull up everything that we just showed you here on the call. Our software, we'll talk through fit. We'll have a conversation with you about your background, what you're looking for in college. And the goal is that you're going to come away from that call with a really, really good direction of where to take your recruiting process.
Right.
After that call, you essentially have the option either to stay and sign up with us, for further help with Sam, where he can give you that hands-on help throughout your entire recruiting process. Contact coaches on your behalf, walk you through the ups and downs of recruiting. Talking through showcases and tournaments and travel schedule, everything that goes into this complicated mess now. Or you could do it yourself. We have a DIY option where you can get onto our platform, create an account, do your own college research, do your own outreach. We have a lot of ways that we can help you get that direction that you're looking for. So I think if you're in that stage where you want to play ball in college, but maybe you're a little bit overwhelmed with it right now, you're not really sure where to start. That's our bread and butter. We would love to hop on a call with you and just talk about direction. Get you going and see what kind of schools we can line up for you.
Hey, no doubt about that. Guys, thanks again for taking the time here. I know that you guys are busy, again, helping guys and gals get where they need to be. Thank you for your expertise and thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
All right. So, again, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check them out, eagleclawanalytics.com. The process is simple. Go through, get a call with them, and be better on the other end of it. But hey, thanks again for taking the time, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have more from these guys later on. But great way to start, and appreciate you tuning in. Again, for myself, Andrew Brown, for Sam, and of course everybody again there, Mike, and again everybody who makes this possible. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see each other next time. Stay safe on the base paths.